Welcome to Rectification Fundamentals, Finding the Birth Time. This course 112 is part 3 of Moving the Chart in Time, a Kepler College certificate course. You might ask, what is rectification anyway? When the birth time is unknown or unsupported by official records, or with only an approximate birth time, rectification is the process whereby the astrologer aligns the given birth time with appropriate planetary patterns to coincide with actual life events. In short, rectification is adjusting the birth time for better accuracy of interpretation. Now, even though many people are unsure of the birth time, there are variables that are beyond our control. For instance, many countries still do not record birth times. Indeed, accurate clock time is dependent upon a reasonably good timepiece. Clock time can be inconsistent, from communities refusing to observe daylight savings time, clear to the problem of clocks or watches running too slow or too fast. Even then, U.S. and world time variances have been incorporated into all of the major software programs, and atomic clocks may narrow the time variables for future generations, but there are a lot of assumptions all of that is built upon. The purpose of rectification is for the astrologer to align appropriate astrological indicators with actual life events. We are dealing with a symbol system, and planets, signs, houses, aspects do have symbolic meaning. The astrologer does that for consistent and accurate forecasting, for in-depth understanding of the unfolding natal chart, for the depth of interpretive detail, and for client confidence. If the astrologer is more accurate in forecasting or explaining the current situation, the client is more likely to return. Now, the process of rectification is quite complicated, pulls upon all of the skills of the astrologer. Indeed, the astrologer and client must work together to confirm the accuracy of the birth time. First of all, the client should arrive with a list of several important life turning points or events with specific dates. Indeed, the client needs to research family records to give the most accurate birth information available. The astrologer astrologically confirms the birth time accuracy with corresponding events. The astrologer then may determine if a rectification search is needed. Now, the key to rectification is determining the most time-sensitive chart factors that most clearly distinguish one person from another born on the same day in the same location. We know that the fastest moving factors in the chart are the angles that change 1 degree every 4 minutes of clock time, and the moon that changes 1 degree every 2 hours. Now, we do know that the angles are consistent in most modern-day systems of chart calculation. So once the angular is established, it makes little difference if one is using Placidus, Table of Houses, or Koch. The house cusps, therefore, do change amongst the different house systems. Therefore, the house cusps are rarely useful in trying to determine accurate birth time. Now, in this process of gathering events, the most painful life events are indeed the most useful in a rectification search. They stand out most prominently. Such things as death of a child or a parent, separation from or loss of a loved one, especially in the youthful years. Other issues such as surgery, accident, illness, job change or job loss, Any of these issues are emotionally stressful for us, and they do show up in our chart as natal planets and configurations are activated. Once you have that information at hand, then set a birth chart for the most reliable reported time. Rarely do we deal with 24-hour search. Most often we're looking at an adjustment of a few minutes one way or the other. If we are dealing with a chart where the time is truly unknown, then a working chart set for noon would be most appropriate. What we're looking for in the first go-around is a search for close 1-degree hard aspects in planetary networks or configurations which will establish important aspect hooks, with the idea that when one planet in the network or configuration is activated, so are all of the others. At this point, you have to not include the angles or the moon. They're too variable for the initial search, and indeed, that's what the astrologer is looking for. The next step is to compare the aspect hooks of the natal chart of the known factors that aren't going to move more than a degree during a 24-hour day with the life event hooks to derive the most reliable birth time. Depending upon the range of time being searched or the disparity of the birth time, the preference generally is the solar arc method first, because the solar motion is regular during the year, and that same regular increment is applied to each planet and point in the chart. The secondary progress method is not useful for the beginning search because of the variables of the ascendant motion and the retrograde cycles of the various planets. The season and the extreme house sizes at higher latitudes are another consideration the astrologer must deal with. Most would agree, however, that the outer transits and indeed other movement techniques to align the aspect hooks with the event hooks is the goal of rectification and clearer and more accurate forecasting for the client.